My mom threw my suitcase onto the front porch and told me I had 30 minutes to get off her property. Not her daughter, her property. I was 18 years old, standing in the Ohio November cold in a hoodie that wasn't thick enough, watching her close the front door like I was a package she'd already signed off on. No argument, no tears on her side. Just the click of a deadbolt and the porch light flicking off, even though it was barely 4 in the afternoon. The last thing she said to me was this: "You want to go waste your life in some kitchen, fine. But don't come crying to me when you're broke and nobody wants you. You'll be back in 3 months. I give it 3 months." I stood there for a second, suitcase at my feet, hands going numb. Then I picked it up, walked to the end of the driveway, and I didn't look back. That was 8 years ago. She called me last month, 7 times in 4 days. I didn't answer a single one. Let me back up. My name is Nora. Wait, no. I've been Nora to everyone else for so long. My name is the name my mom chose when she still had plans for me. Pre-med, then law. Then, when I showed zero interest in either, accounting, something stable. Something she could tell her book club friends about without having to explain it. She wanted a daughter she could brag about in shorthand. My daughter the doctor, my daughter the attorney. Clean sentences. Easy pride. What she was as me. I started cooking seriously when I was 14. Not because anyone taught me. My mom's idea of a home-cooked meal was defrosted casserole, but because I found a cookbook at a garage sale for 50 cents and something just clicked. The way recipes were basically just logic. Cause and effect. You do this, you get that. I like the honesty of it. Food doesn't lie to you. Either it tastes good or it doesn't. By 16 I was cooking dinner for the whole house most nights. By 17 I was doing pop-up bake sales at my high school, saving money, watching YouTube videos about culinary school, researching programs, the Culinary Institute of America, Johnson & Wales, Le Cordon Bleu's American campuses. I had a whole spreadsheet. My mom found the spreadsheet. This is what you've been doing instead of studying for the SATs. I'm also studying for the SAT. You are not throwing away a college education to go learn how to make soup. It's not just this conversation is over. But it wasn't over. It lasted another year. A whole year of her cycling through phases, dismissal, then anger, then something that felt almost like bargaining, then back to anger. My dad stayed mostly quiet throughout. That was his thing. He'd give me these looks across the dinner table that I wanted to believe meant I'm on your side, but he never actually said anything. Not once. When the deadline came for me to choose culinary school for a 4-year college she approved of, he sat right next to her on the couch and said nothing. I chose culinary school. I had applied to a program in Charlotte, North Carolina. 18 months intensive with a focus on culinary arts and kitchen management. I'd gotten in. I had a partial scholarship, not enough to cover everything, but enough that with the money I'd saved from bake sales and a part-time job at a diner, I could make it work if I was careful. I told my mom on a Tuesday evening. I had the acceptance letter printed out. I put it on the kitchen counter in front of her. She read it, folded it in half, slid it back toward me. If you walk out that door and go to this cooking camp, don't expect to come back here. I mean that. You leave, you're on your own. No money, no help, no roof, nothing. Mom, I'm serious. I've given you every opportunity. I have tried. I cannot keep enabling someone who is determined to ruin her own future. I looked at my dad. He was looking at his hands. Okay, I said. I packed that night. She didn't come out of her room. My dad stood in the hallway when I was dragging my second bag to the door. He opened his mouth. I actually stopped. Waited. He closed it again, stepped back, let me pass. I drove to Charlotte in a 9 Honda Civic with a busted defroster and $200 in my checking account. I slept on my cousin's couch for 6 weeks before I found a room to rent that I could actually afford. I worked 30 hours a week at a restaurant while going to school full-time. I ate a lot of rice and eggs. I called home once, about 2 months in, just to see. My mom answered, heard my voice, said, "I told you 3 months," and hung up. I didn't call again. Here is what I want people to understand about those years, because this is the part that usually gets skipped over in stories like mine. It was not romantic. There was nothing cinematic about being 19 and counting quarters to see if I could afford the bus. There were nights I cried so hard I gave myself headaches. There were moments I thought about calling her, not because I wanted to go home, but because I was so tired of being the only person in my corner. Loneliness has a physical weight to it. It sits on your chest at 2 in the morning and it tells you that maybe you were wrong, maybe she was right, maybe you should have just done the accounting degree and learned to be fine with fine. I never called. I graduated from culinary school. Got a job as a line cook at a mid-level restaurant in Charlotte, worked my way up over 2 years to sous chef. Learned everything I could from every chef I worked under, good ones and bad ones. The bad ones, honestly, taught me more. I learned exactly what kind of kitchen I would never run, because that was the plan, always. My own place. I moved to Nashville at 23 with a business partner, a woman I'd met during an internship, sharp as anything, who knew the front of house side the way I knew the kitchen. We spent a year writing a business plan, another year raising capital, applying for an SBA loan, finding a location. Every single step took twice as long as we expected. Every single step cost more. We opened when I was 25, a 38-seat restaurant in East Nashville, farm-to-table focus, rotating seasonal menu. The first year was brutal. We were in the red months, so I didn't pay myself a real salary for 8 months. There were weeks I genuinely wasn't sure we'd make it. We made it. By year 2, we had a wait list. A local food magazine ran a profile on us. A James Beard semi-finalist list mentioned the following spring. A second location by years 3. Smaller, counter service. A fast casual concept we'd been developing on napkins since basically day 1. I was 26 when a food journalist asked me what I'd say to people who had discouraged me from pursuing this career. I said, I'd tell them thank you for making me do it alone. I learned things about myself I never would have otherwise. I believed that. I still believe it. But here is the part where I have to be honest about something I don't always say out loud. There were still moments, even in the middle of success, when I felt the absence of my family like a missing tooth you keep pressing your tongue against. My opening night, the first restaurant. We had a full house, the kitchen ran clean. I stepped out at the end of service and my business partner hugged me, and there were people clapping. It was everything, and also standing there I thought, she's never going to see this. And I didn't know exactly what I felt about that, not grief exactly, not satisfaction either, just a strange hollow space where something should have been. I kept moving. Now let me tell you about the phone calls. It was a regular Wednesday. I was doing prep work for that evening's service, going through my phone between tasks, when I noticed a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. Ohio area code. I almost didn't listen to it. It was my dad. His voice sounded older than I remembered. He stumbled over his words a little, like he'd rehearsed this and was losing the thread. He said my mom had been in the hospital. A cardiac event, not a full heart attack, but serious enough. She was home now, recovering, but there were bills. Medical bills that their insurance hadn't fully covered. And there were other things, he said. The house had a second mortgage. He'd lost his job the previous year, something about the company restructuring. They were behind, really behind, he said. We just thought maybe you'd want to know. Not I'm sorry. Not I was wrong to say nothing. Just, we thought you'd want to know. I put my phone down, went back to prep, julienned an entire flat of carrots, let myself feel absolutely nothing for about 45 minutes because that was all I had time for. Then I listened to the voicemail 3 more times. Over the next 4 days, 47 more calls came in, some from the same Ohio number, a few from numbers I didn't recognize. One, and this one I did almost answer, appeared to be from my mom's cell phone directly. Her voice on the voicemail was nothing like I remembered. She sounded small. She said my name, and then didn't say anything for a few seconds and then said, I don't know what to say, I just need to hear your voice. Here is where I am supposed to tell you that I went home, that we had a tearful reunion, that she apologized and I forgave her and we cried together, and it was healing. That's not what happened. I sat with it for 2 weeks. I talked to my therapist. I talked to my business partner, who is also one of my closest friends and who knows the whole story. I called my cousin, the one who let me sleep on her couch, because she's the only family member who stayed in contact with me through all of it, who I actually trust. My cousin told me something I've turned over in my mind every day since. You don't owe her your presence, but you might want to think about what you can live with. What could I live with? Not what was fair, not what she deserved, not what made the best story. What could I live with, in the long run, as the person I actually want to be? I didn't call her back. I wrote a letter instead. 1 page. I said that I had heard she was unwell and I was glad she was recovering. I said that I hoped things would stabilize for them financially. I said that I wasn't ready to have a conversation, possibly not for a long time, but that I wanted them to know I didn't wish them harm. I also connected them with a nonprofit I'd actually done a fundraiser dinner for the previous year, an organization that helps families navigate medical debt and connect with financial assistance programs, real resources, actual help, through someone else so that my name wasn't attached to it. I did not send money. I did not call, I did not go home. The letter took me 4 drafts and 3 days to write. My therapist asked me, after I sent it, how I felt. I said I felt like I had done the thing that let me stay who I am. She asked what that meant. I said, I think there's a version of me who says nothing, feels righteous about it for a while, and then carries it for the rest of my life. And there's a version who calls back, goes home, acts like 8 years didn't happen, and loses herself trying to manage something that isn't manageable. Neither of those is who I want to be. And the letter? The letter is me saying, I see you, I'm not pretending this didn't happen, I'm not rescuing you, but I'm also not burning it down. She nodded, wrote something in her notebook. I don't know if my mom read it, I don't know what happened after. My dad texted me once, about a week later, thank you, 2 words. I read it and put my phone down and made myself a cup of coffee and stood at the window of my apartment looking out at the Nashville skyline for a long time. People ask me sometimes whether I regret it. The leaving, the years of nothing, all of it. Here's what I actually think, and I mean this honestly, not as a neat bow on a complicated thing. I regret that she was the kind of parent who made leaving feel like the only option. I don't regret leaving. I regret that my dad never said a word when it might have mattered. I don't regret becoming the person I am, even though that person was built out of some very hard materials. There's something else I think about. That scholarship I got, the partial one that helped me get to Charlotte in the first place. I later found out, through my cousin, that my mom had actually called the school at one point. My first semester, she'd told them I had dropped out and moved back to Ohio, and tried to get the scholarship rescinded. The school had tried to contact me at my home address, which was still listed as my mom's house, and gotten no response. They sent one email to an old address I'd stopped checking. I didn't find out until 2 years later. By then it was too late to do anything official about it. When my cousin told me, I was sitting in the parking lot of a grocery store. I sat there for a long time. I thought about the weeks during that first semester when I had been so close to the edge financially that I'd considered dropping out myself. I thought about what would have happened if the scholarship had actually been pulled. Maybe I would have come home, maybe she would have felt vindicated, maybe I'd be living a life that never felt like mine. But she hadn't accounted for the fact that I had already enrolled, already been verified as active by the school, and the scholarship had already disbursed. Whatever she told them hadn't actually worked. The money had already come through. She tried to take it anyway. I think about that a lot, not with rage, mostly. With something quieter, a clarity, because it tells me something important about who she is, and about what home actually meant in that house. It tells me that my instincts at 18 were correct, that the door I walked through was the right one. Now it's 8 years later, I run 2 restaurants. I have a team I'm proud of. I have a life that feels like mine every day, the hard days and the good ones. I have people around me who stayed. My mom left a voicemail 6 weeks ago that I still haven't deleted. I've listened to it twice. She sounds tired. She says she thinks about me every day. She says she was wrong and that she knows that now, and that she doesn't expect anything, but she wanted to say it. I believe she means it. I also know that people can mean something and still have done the harm they did. Both things are true at once. I'm not ready. Maybe someday I will be. Maybe I won't. I'm not going to make a promise in either direction, because I think the honest answer is that I don't know yet, and I've learned to be careful about certainty. What I know is this. I walked out of that house with $200 and a busted defroster, and I built something. Not to prove her wrong, I gave up needing to prove things to her somewhere around year 4. I built it because it was mine to build, because the kitchen was always the place I made sense, and nobody else's fear of that was mine to carry. The porch light went off. I walked to the end of the driveway. I never looked back, and everything I have, every table I've set, every menu I've written, every morning I wake up and do work I actually love, came from that one step off the porch into the cold. She called it throwing my life away. I call it the beginning.